The blood of titans. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the human delegation entered. The massive room, designed to accommodate representatives from over 300 species, seemed to hold its breath. Curved walls of polished stone rose hundreds of meters toward a transparent dome that revealed the jeweled canvas of space above. Floating platforms carried diplomats from various worlds, some with multiple limbs, others with none at all. Yet all eyes, sensory organs, and detection apparatus were fixed on the 5 humans who walked steadily across the central platform. Admiral Helena Kress led the group. She wore a pristine white uniform that contrasted sharply with her dark skin, but what caught the attention of the assembled delegates wasn't her commanding presence. It was the dried crimson stains that covered her right sleeve and much of her torso. Behind her, 4 other humans marched in perfect formation, their uniforms similarly marked with alarming red patterns. None of them spoke, none of them smiled. High Counselor Vextral, a 6-limbed being with iridescent scales, leaned forward on his hovering platform. "Admiral Kress," he began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. "We welcome humanity to the Galactic Council." His voice echoed through the chamber, but the tension remained thick enough to cut with a blade. "Thank you for your welcome," Admiral Kress replied, her voice flat and emotionless. "Earth appreciates the invitation." The exchange felt hollow performative. Everyone in the chamber knew something was wrong. The human ships had arrived in orbit just hours earlier, and the sight had shocked the entire diplomatic corps. 12 massive warships, their hulls scorched and battered, bearing the unmistakable stains of what appeared to be blood. And not just small patches, entire sections of the ships were covered in it, dried and darkened against the metal. "Admiral," Counselor Vextral continued, his many eyes blinking nervously, "perhaps you would care to explain the condition of your fleet." The chamber somehow grew even quieter. The hovering platforms stilled their usual gentle movements. Even the environmental systems seemed to pause. "Our fleet engaged in combat," Admiral Kress stated simply. "We were victorious." "Against whom?" asked Ziklora, the representative from the Film Collective, her feathered crest rising in agitation. "No conflicts have been reported in your sector for decades. The threat was unknown to us when we encountered it," Admiral Kress replied. "It is now neutralized." "That doesn't answer the question," Ziklora pressed, her voice rising slightly. "What manner of conflict leaves such evidence?" Admiral Kress turned her gaze directly to the Film representative. Something in her eyes made Ziklora's feathers flatten against her head. "Counselor, with respect, the details of our encounter are classified by Earth Command until we complete our analysis. What I can tell you is that humanity stands ready to fulfill our obligations to the Galactic Council, despite our recent losses." Losses? The word rippled through the chamber in various languages and communication methods. "How many?" 3 ships and their crews, approximately 15,000 personnel. The number sent a shockwave through the assembly. 15,000 lives lost in a single engagement was almost unheard of in modern galactic conflicts. Most species had evolved beyond such direct confrontations, relying on automated systems and precision strikes to minimize casualties. High Counselor Vextral's scales had lost their luster, turning a pale blue. "Admiral Kress, the Council extends its condolences for your losses. However, I must insist on greater transparency. If there is an unknown threat in our shared space, all member species must be informed." The Admiral remained unmoved. "When we can share information without compromising security, we will do so. Until then, I ask for the Council's patience and trust." Trust. The word came from Ambassador Krell, a gaseous entity contained within a translucent sphere. His form swirled with agitation. "You arrive covered in blood, speak of massive casualties, and ask for trust while providing no information." Admiral Kress turned slowly to face the Krell ambassador. "Yes." The simplicity of her response created another wave of murmurs through the chamber. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic stage. They had been discovered just 30 Earth years ago, and their rapid advancement had surprised many of the older species. Some found their directness refreshing. Others found it alarming. This session of the Council is adjourned, High Counselor Vex Troll announced, clearly sensing the growing tension. We will reconvene tomorrow. Admiral Kress, I request a private meeting with you and your staff in 1 hour. The Admiral nodded once, then turned with military precision and led her delegation from the chamber. As they departed, the Council erupted into chaotic discussion. In the diplomatic wing of the Council's orbital station, Ambassador Krell's containment sphere hovered close to Ziklora's quarters. The two had formed an unlikely alliance years ago, both representing species that had once been prey to the same ancient predators. They're hiding something significant, Ziklora said, her voice low despite the room's security shields. Her feathers remained flat against her head, a sign of deep concern in her species. Obviously, Krell's gaseous form swirled in shades of yellow and orange. But what concerns me more is not what they're hiding, but why they chose to make their concealment so visible. Explain. They could have cleaned their ships before arriving. They could have worn unstained uniforms. The blood, and I'm certain it is blood, was displayed deliberately. Ziklora considered this a warning or a threat? Perhaps both. Humans are still an enigma to many in the Council. Their history is filled with violence, yet they've advanced remarkably quickly. Their literature often glorifies what they call necessary sacrifice. Do you think they sacrificed their own people to achieve something? Ziklora's crest rose slightly in horror. I don't know, Krell replied, his form darkening. But I intend to find out. Admiral Kress stood alone in her assigned quarters, staring out at the stars. The room was spacious by human standards, designed to accommodate various physiologies. She had removed her uniform jacket, revealing more dried blood on the simple gray shirt beneath. The door chimed, and she spoke without turning. Enter. Commander Reyes stepped in, his own uniform similarly stained. Admiral, the Council's intelligence services are already probing our systems. They're trying to access our battle logs. As expected, she replied. Are our countermeasures holding? Yes, Mom, but there's something else. He hesitated. We've detected unusual communications from multiple delegations. They're reaching out to their military commands. Also expected. Admiral, Reyes began, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. Are we sure about this approach? The Council is terrified. Some are already suggesting we be quarantined until we provide full disclosure. Admiral Kress finally turned from the window. The starlight caught the exhaustion in her eyes, the lines that hadn't been there just weeks ago. Fear is inevitable, Commander. What matters is what they do with that fear. She walked to a secure terminal and activated it. Show me the latest readings from the border of the restricted zone. The screen illuminated with sensor data, displaying a section of space now cordoned off by human warships. The readings were complex, showing energy signatures that fluctuated in patterns that defied standard analysis. Still contained, Reyes confirmed. But the barrier is weakening in Section 7. We need reinforcements. They're on their way. 3 more fleets will arrive within 52 hours. She studied the data closely. And the specimens. Secure in maximum containment. The science team reports unusual cellular regeneration, even in the fragmented samples. They're persistent. Admiral Kress nodded slowly. They've had millions of years to perfect their biology, Commander. We shouldn't be surprised. No, Mom. Reyes hesitated again. The Council is expecting answers tomorrow. What do we tell them? The Admiral's expression hardened. Exactly what they need to know. No more, no less. And if they demand more, then they demonstrate they aren't ready for the truth. She closed the terminal. Humanity wasn't ready either, but we didn't have a choice. The Council still does. Outside the window, the massive shapes of human warships hung in orbit, their blood-stained hulls catching the light of an alien sun. To any observer, they looked wounded, damaged, but to those who truly understood, they were a testament to survival against impossible odds. The blood was a badge of honor, a mark of determination that had cost 15,000 lives. And if the Council couldn't understand that sacrifice, the cost would soon be much higher. In the deepest levels of the Council station, in a laboratory few knew existed, Chief Scientist Moroven carefully examined a sample taken from the hull of a human ship. His four hands worked in perfect coordination, manipulating sophisticated instruments, while his large eyes blinked behind protective goggles. Extraordinary, he whispered to himself. Simply extraordinary. The sample contained traces of the blood that covered the human vessels. Initial analysis had confirmed it was indeed human blood, but there was something else mixed with it, something that defied categorization. Cellular structures that seemed to shift and change even as he observed them. Moroven had been instructed to conduct this analysis in secret by High Counselor Vextrol himself. The Council needed information beyond what the humans were willing to share. A soft chime indicated the completion of a detailed scan. Moroven turned to the results and froze. According to the data, some of the unknown cellular structures were still active. Not just preserved, active. He quickly initiated containment protocols, sealing the sample in a field designed to hold the most dangerous biological agents. As he watched, a tiny section of the sample moved. It was almost imperceptible, but unmistakable to his trained eye. Whatever the humans had encountered, part of it was here now, and it was alive. The price of victory. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began with an atmosphere of barely controlled panic. News had spread quickly. Something had been found in the human blood samples, something alive and possibly dangerous. Security personnel in sealed environmental suits stood at every entrance to the Grand Chamber, and many delegations had chosen to attend virtually rather than risk physical presence. Admiral Helena Kress stood once again on the central platform, but this time she was alone. Behind her, displayed on the massive screens that curved around the chamber, were images from the human fleet's sensor logs. They showed a region of space distorted by energy fields unlike anything the Council had documented before. 23 days ago, Admiral Kress began, her voice steady. Earth long-range scouts detected an anomaly in the Cygnus Void, a region we had previously believed to be uninhabited. She gestured, and the display changed to show a massive structure floating in space, organic in appearance despite its kilometers-long dimensions. This object appeared to be dormant when first discovered. Initial scans indicated it was artificial in origin, but devoid of life. A research team was dispatched for further investigation. Her expression hardened. That team was lost. All hands. Their final transmission indicated they were under attack by organisms that emerged from within the structure itself. High Counselor Vextrol leaned forward. "What manner of organisms, Admiral?" In response, Kress signaled again, and the display changed once more. The image that appeared caused audible reactions of shock and disgust throughout the chamber. It showed a creature that defied easy description. Part insectoid, part reptilian, with a physiology that seemed designed purely for predation. Multiple limbs ended in razor-sharp appendages, and its exoskeleton appeared to be both armor and weapon. "We call them the Void Hunters," Kress continued. "From what we've pieced together, they are an ancient species that hibernates for millennia before awakening to feed. Their biology allows them to adapt rapidly to different environments and prey species. The structure we discovered was a brood ship, containing thousands of them in suspended animation. Are you suggesting these creatures have existed undetected in Council space?" Ambassador Krell's gaseous form swirled with agitation. "Not just existed," Kress replied grimly. "Hunted. We found evidence of previous awakenings throughout galactic history. Mass extinctions previously attributed to natural disasters, entire civilizations that disappeared without explanation. The Hunters were responsible." The implication sent a wave of horror through the assembly. If what the Admiral claimed was true, One of the galaxy's greatest mysteries had just been solved in the most terrifying way possible. After losing the research team, Earth Command dispatched a battle group to neutralize the threat. Kress continued. We engaged the creatures both in space and during boarding actions on the brood ship. The hunters proved difficult to kill. Their biology allows them to regenerate from severe damage, and they can survive in vacuum. Additionally, they appear to use the blood of their prey as both sustenance and a medium for reproduction. The blood on your ships, Ziklora said softly. It's not just human blood, is it? No, Kress confirmed. It contains traces of hunter biology. We discovered too late that their blood has unique properties. It attempts to convert any organic matter it contacts. Our decontamination protocols were ineffective. We made the decision to leave the blood intact rather than risk spreading microscopic hunter cells throughout our ship's ventilation and waste processing systems. And you brought this contamination to the Council's central station. Ambassador Krell's containment sphere actually moved backward in alarm. The contamination is neutralized, Kress stated firmly. We developed a method to render the hunter cells dormant without destroying them. We needed live samples for study. The blood you see is no longer dangerous, but we've maintained quarantine procedures as a precaution. High Counselor Vextral's scales had turned a deep blue, signaling extreme concern. Admiral, while we appreciate your candor, this information should have been shared immediately upon your arrival. You've potentially endangered the entire Council. With respect, Counselor, we needed to confirm the threat was truly contained before creating a panic. Kress stood straighter. And we needed to assess the Council's security protocols. If information about the hunters had leaked to the general public before we understood how to combat them, the resulting chaos could have been disastrous. You tested us, Ziklora said, her feathers bristling. You deliberately presented a mystery to see how we would respond. Yes, Kress admitted without hesitation, and several of you responded by stealing samples without permission or authorization. Samples of an unknown biological agent from vessels that were clearly contaminated with something dangerous. The accusation hung in the air, unanswerable because it was true. Chief Scientist Moroven had been acting under Council authority, but the theft of the samples had technically violated diplomatic protocols. Had those samples been fully active, Kress continued, this station could already be compromised. The hunters adapt quickly, and they are intelligent. They learn from each prey species they consume, incorporating useful traits into their own biology and strategy. Why did you engage them directly? Asked another counselor, a silicon-based entity from a heavy-gravity world. Surely remote weapons would have been more effective. We tried that first, Kress replied. Nuclear weapons, antimatter charges, even directed energy weapons at planet-cracking power levels. The brood ship was damaged but not destroyed. The hunters adapted to each attack. We had no choice but to board the vessel and destroy its core systems manually. She paused, then added more quietly. Many of those 15,000 we lost gave their lives ensuring hunter specimens couldn't escape. They sealed themselves in contaminated sections and activated their personal weapons rather than risk spreading the infection. The chamber was silent as the implications of this sacrifice registered. Even those species most suspicious of humanity could recognize the nobility in such actions. The threat is contained for now, Kress continued after a moment. The brood ship has been destroyed, and we've established a quarantine zone around the debris field. But our scientists believe this was just one ship of many. The hunters have likely been seeding the galaxy with these hibernation vessels for millions of years, programmed to awaken when they detect sufficient prey populations. Why have we never encountered them before? Asked the Krell ambassador. You have, Kress said simply. But those who encountered them didn't survive to warn others. Humanity was fortunate. We responded with overwhelming force and were willing to accept extreme casualties to contain the threat. Many civilizations throughout history lacked that capability or determination. High Counselor Vextral's scales had begun to regain some of their normal coloration. What do you propose, Admiral? If these hunter vessels exist throughout the galaxy, we face an unprecedented threat. Earth has already begun developing specialized detection systems to locate dormant brood ships, Kress replied. We're also working on more effective weapons and countermeasures against hunter biology. But we can't do this alone. We need the combined resources and knowledge of the Council. She straightened her shoulders, standing tall despite her obvious exhaustion. Humanity requests the formation of a joint task force with representatives from all Council species. We will share everything we've learned about the hunters, and in return, we ask for your help in developing better defenses. The Council chamber erupted in discussion, with species that had been enemies for generations suddenly finding common ground in the face of this new threat. Admiral Kress watched silently, allowing them time to process what they'd learned. After several minutes, High Counselor Vextrol raised his primary limbs for silence. Admiral Kress, the Council acknowledges the sacrifice humanity has made in confronting this threat. We accept your proposal for a joint task force and will begin organizing resources immediately. He hesitated, then added, I must ask, why did humanity choose to confront this danger alone? Why not call for Council assistance from the beginning? Admiral Kress's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Pride, perhaps, or determination. Counselor, when we discovered the brood ship, we had no way of knowing whether the Council would believe us, let alone respond with the necessary decisiveness. Earth has been a member of the galactic community for a relatively short time. Many still view us as aggressive, unpredictable, even dangerous. She gestured to her blood-stained uniform. Perhaps we are those things, but sometimes being dangerous is necessary. The hunters had awakened, and someone had to stop them immediately, not after debates and votes and political maneuvering. Humanity acted because we could, and because we understood the price of inaction. The chamber was silent again, but this time it wasn't from fear or suspicion. It was a silence of recognition. Recognition that despite their differences, despite humanity's youth among the stars, Earth had stood as a shield for species that didn't even know they were in danger. We hope, Admiral Kress concluded, that this is the beginning of a deeper partnership. The hunters are still out there, hibernating. Next time, we'll face them together. As she finished speaking, the massive screens behind her changed one final time, showing the human fleet in orbit. The ships still bore their stains of battle, but in the light of the system's sun, the red didn't look quite so alarming anymore. It looked like a badge of honor, a testament to sacrifice, and a promise of protection. Throughout the Council chamber, representatives of 300 species looked upon humanity's blood-stained ships and saw not a threat, but salvation. 1 month later, aboard the human flagship Defiance, Admiral Kress stood before a viewscreen showing the first Joint Council Human Hunter Response Fleet. Dozens of vessels from various species had joined the remaining human ships, creating an armada unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Commander Rice approached, handing her a data tablet. Long-range sensors have detected another anomaly. Admiral. Similar energy signature to the first brood ship, but much larger. Location is approximately 12 light-years beyond the Council frontier. Kress reviewed the data, her expression grim but resolved. Alert the fleet. We move in 6 hours. Yes, Admiral. Rice hesitated. The Council representatives are requesting a strategy meeting before departure. Of course. Tell them I'll join shortly. As Rice left, Kress turned back to the viewscreen, studying the assembled fleet. The ships were all different, some organic in design, others geometric, each reflecting the culture and technology of its creators. Yet they now flew in formation, united by a common purpose. Humanity had entered the galactic stage covered in blood, bearing mournings of ancient horrors. They had been met with fear and suspicion, even hostility. But in the end, they had found allies willing to stand beside them against the darkness. That was enough. It had to be enough, because the hunters were awakening, and the galaxy would need every weapon, every ship, and every drop of courage it could muster for the war to come. As Admiral Kress looked out at the fleet, she allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had always been fighters, survivors against impossible odds. Now, they had taught the galaxy to fight as well. And somewhere in the void, ancient predators stirred in their sleep, unaware that their prey had become hunters themselves.